Okay, so at the time of recording this video, it is currently the summer of 2024, and we're here in Oxford. It's June at the moment, so summer's just started, and the sun is out. It's nice weather every day. The countryside around Oxford looks very beautiful. Everyone's out. Things are happening. It's that kind of time of the year, and it's very nice. But recently, I've been thinking a lot about the summer more generally, and kind of how to really make the most of it properly. Because I don't know about you, but I think it's very easy to fall into a trap with the summer, which I'm going to explain, where you feel like you always look forward to the summer. Like when it's shit weather in January, you have like an image of like, oh, I can't wait until the summer, the summer, that then it'll be great, and it's kind of something that keeps you going throughout the mundaneness of normal life, is the idea that, oh, when it's summer, then I'll have a nice time, and it gets to summer, and it almost kind of passes you by, and like, yes, the weather's a bit nicer, yes, you might go on a holiday or whatever, but there's some fundamental aspect, some kind of essence of the summer that you were looking forward to that you didn't get. Somehow it just eluded you and you didn't even realise it. And it just sort of passes you by and doesn't really feel like how it's meant to feel. Kind of the same thing with Christmas, which is a whole nother story, but it just kind of comes and it's like, oh, now it's the summer. Hold on a minute, like something's up. It just feels boring. It just feels normal. And like I say, you just kind of let it pass you by, and it's a really sad feeling. And I've thought a lot about this, and I've journaled a lot about it. And I'm going to sort of teach you something that I've been using at the moment to like really make the most of the summer, and sort of really make a success of it rather than just have it sort of pass you by like some inconsequential thing. So I think what it boils down to really is how you interpret the world. For example, my parents have a Volvo, like, well, they don't have any more, but they used to have this specific type of Volvo. I think it was called a Volvo V70, and it was like this big black Volvo. And, Volvo isn't a very fashionable brand of car, in the UK at least, so they're not very common. But when I was a kid, I would always see one, like on the motorway, or when I was, just in town or something, I'd always notice one when I saw one, because my parents had this specific brand of car. So I kind of thought it was common, But if my parents had like a Suzuki, or they'd had a Range Rover, or a Ford instead, I wouldn't have thought that car was common, because I would have never noticed it, And instead I would have thought that, oh, this type of car, the Suzuki's terribly common, everyone seems to have a Suzuki, And maybe you can relate to this yourself, like, there's something that if you're used to seeing something, or if you've just, like, have something, you'll see it everywhere, And it's because your brain's kind of oriented itself towards that thing. Try to think of another example. Like, when you first, like, if you read a lot and you learn, like, a new words, or some, like, technical word for something, you'll often just see it everywhere. Everyone will suddenly start using it. And it's not because they weren't using it before, but it's just you didn't notice it then. But now, like, you know what that word means, and so you notice it, and everyone starts using it. So yeah, this kind of stuff happens quite a lot. It's quite weird, and I'm sure you can find your own examples of similar things happening. But basically, what's going on there is your brain, like I say, your brain has just interpreted the world in respect of a specific thing. And I think you can use the same mechanism for having a good summer and like making the most of the summer. And what you want to do is basically get a pen, get a pad of paper, and just write down, and make sure you write it down because it's much more effective if you do. Just write down, what does the ideal summer look like? And just sit there for like 5 minutes and just see what you feel moved to write. And you might notice a lot of things. Well, one of two things will happen, and neither really matters, but probably one of these things will happen, and both are significant. So first, one thing that you might find that happens is you just won't find anything to write about. You'll just sit there and you'll think, fuck, I actually have no idea what like an ideal summer looks like. And if that happens, then we already know everything we need to know about why you're letting the summers pass you by, don't we? Because you don't have a fucking clue what you want out of the summer. How can you be so willing to berate yourself for like not making the most of the summer when once you actually sit down there with a pen and paper, nothing comes to mind, you know what I mean? And it's clear that you don't have an image of what you actually want the summer to look like. You haven't oriented your brain in that sort of direction. So of course you're not going to have a good summer. Of course you're not going to make the most of it being this time of year. Because you don't have a fucking clue what you want to do with it. So that thing might happen. The second thing that might happen is you might write down a few ideas about what the summer might look like. And I'll just give you some roundabout things with like what that could be. So for me, I would say, having done this journaling exercise quite a lot, I would say it probably boils down to, if I really close my eyes and think like, what does the summer look like? In my head, one of the first things it involves is going somewhere warm, somewhere sunny, and having like kind of lad's holiday basically, and it's probably, like I say, in a hot country, probably specifically Spain for some reason. I don't know why. That's one thing. Then I also think of like festivals, going to a festival, going to like, I don't know, just enjoying the nice weather, stuff like that. Again, I'm not giving out loads of ideas because I'm still quite early on in this journaling practice myself, but you see what I mean. You start getting a few things going. So either of those things will happen. Either you'll just have nothing to write about, or you'll have a few things to write about. But either way, you just want to sit there until some ideas start to come to the surface, and you don't want to make up ideas. So earlier when I was talking about this, I used the word, you feel like inspired, you feel moved to write something down. So that's really how you want to do it. You want to just sit there and wait for the inspiration to come, rather than just think, this is kind of what I should do in the summer. And it might be that nothing comes to mind, in which case just sit down, you just put the pad of paper away and come back to it later. I do this all the time. Every time I journal, I'll write down like, what do I want the summer to be? And wait for like, there's a deeper force within you that will move you to write something if it thinks of it. And that's what you want to do. So anyway, let's say you do this journaling exercise and you start coming up with a few ideas of like what you want the summer to look like whether it's like a holiday or like going to a festival or enjoying the weather, or you have some kind of image of what it is. It'll be different for everyone. I'm just using my own examples. So you've got that. What do you do now? Well, I'll tell you what you don't do, right? You don't just look at everything that you've got and go, right, I'm just going to book a holiday, I'm going to book a festival, blah, blah. Like, you can do all that stuff, that's great, but it's not really at the essence of the exercise, I think it's not at the essence of what you're really looking for. What you want to do now is get these ideas that you have and go deeper into them. And the way you do this is just ask yourself lots of questions, like seriously just hundreds of questions about each of these aspects. So take the two aspects that I've got, like festivals. Okay, you want to go to a festival in the summer. What sort of festival is it like? You know, because there are lots of different types of festivals. That's quite a broad term still. You know, are you looking for like a sort of summery, like quite wholesome festival, like Latitude or Boardmasters or something like that? Are you looking to go to like a, let's face it, like a more druggy festival, like Boomtown or Park Life or something like that? You know, are you more, is it because you want to see a specific band that's going in a festival? Like really ask yourself these questions, and don't answer them unless you have an answer. It's much more important just to ask and just cement that question into your subconscious, and then let the subconscious kind of do the work for you. You know, let it come up with the answers yourself. Okay, and then you ask yourself some more questions like, what sort of people do I want to go with? Like, what sort of group of friends do I have that I see myself going with? Doesn't matter if they're interested in coming or not. It's not about the practical side of it, you know. But just in theory, like, if I close my eyes and I'm imagining I'm at this festival, like, who's with me? You know, is it like my boys from my hometown? You know, is it some mates from uni? Is it like just a small group of people and we want to go to see a specific kind of music? You know, those are the kind of questions you want to be asking. What sort of music am I actually going to see? I'm actually that fussed about the music, or is it just more about the atmosphere that I want to go for? Keep asking these questions and keep going into like as much detail as you can. And then take the other one, like let's say you want to go on like a holiday somewhere. Okay, what is the holiday like? Like, what sort of country could it be at? I mean, I said Spain, but you know, it might be different for you. Okay, like what you do again? Is it like a sort of lads' holiday? Is it more of a kind of cultural holiday? What sort of people are you going with? How long are you staying for? And just really like try and like really settle yourself into the texture of like what it feels like to be on this like imaginary holiday that you're having in the summer. And just really just let yourself go into these microscopic details, because that's where the magic is, really. You know, that's where you really get cut into the heart of like, sorry to sound really cringe, but like the magic of summer that you're looking for is in those small details. That's where you really get into it. And like I say, I'm not saying don't do this, but the point isn't that you just do what is on your journal, you know, because it might be right to do it, you might feel inspired to go and do it, but that's not the point. The point is you're programming your brain to like understand what it is that it wants out of summer. And like I say, this is a big journaling exercise, so I do this all the time. Like, it's not, you might just sit down for like 2 hours and do this all and then bosh, you're done, but more likely it's probably going to be quite difficult. You're probably going to constantly come back to it, but I'd encourage you just to keep coming back to it, you know, every time you journal, and just go like, okay, ask yourself the same question and just write it out, because it makes such a difference. What do I want out of summer today? And just rewrite, keep rewriting like all the things, and you know, ask yourself new questions every time you do it, and just really, like I say, just keep coming back to it and keep building this picture in your mind. And it's, yeah, it might just be an overnight thing. Like I say, you might just stand there and do it all, and then bam, you've got an image in your head. But it's probably more of like a gradual thing that you get to the more you do it, the more you practice it. And then you'll get to a point where it starts kind of lining up. You know, you start kind of seeing the world in the way that is conducive to like a good summer, you know. And then you can take action if it feels right. You know, if you do the journaling, you say, you know what, why don't I just book like a holiday with some mates to Ayia Napa, you know, and have a good time. But my point is, you don't necessarily have to. I think the power of this journaling session is much more than that, because you'll just this sounds really weird, but you'll just start like things will start coming to you. You'll start like just seeing opportunities for the kind of things you want to do in the summer, and it will feel kind of effortless because your brain is now programmed to kind of see those things and like just move towards them naturally. And so like, obviously like you can't literally just lay there in your room and expect to have like a perfect summer, but I think it's amazing how effortlessly things happen when you just have a really clear image in your mind. And to use a slightly different example, because maybe some of you guys don't believe me on this, I recently moved into this house in Oxford, where I am right now. And before I moved into it, like, I did a big journaling session. It wasn't so much about, like, the ideal house, but it was about, like, accommodation in university, and, like, what would have been, like, my ideal accommodation at uni. Like, and I literally like wrote like a sort of prose of like what it would be like, you know, to have like the perfect accommodation in university. And then literally like the next viewing I do is this house, and it just is really weird. I don't expect people to understand it, but this house is exactly like how I sort of journaled. Like the ideal accommodation in university, and it might just be a coincidence, but I just think when the brain sees like an image in its head, it just moves towards it. Like if you don't believe me, like read Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a great book that talks about that. I just see that with so much stuff. Like once you get an image, it just kind of moves towards it. It just can't help it. And so yeah, it worked with finding a good house. I'm expecting it to have the same effects with like having a good summer as well. So that is it, guys. Basically, just give this a try, see how it works for you. Maybe you think I'm full of shit and this doesn't work, but definitely give it a try and have fun with it. See if it works. Another thing that I forgot to add actually is another thing that's good to journal is journal like previous times where you had like an ideal summer, like moments where you kind of had that ideal summer. So it might be like you had a holiday in the past that sort of that is sort of similar to that image in your head of like a ideal summer, and like write that down, like maybe just in prose, like what you did that whole time, and yeah, that helps as well, guys. So all that kind of stuff. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. It's been a pleasure as always. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next one.